Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm your English teacher Zia Hamid. Welcome to English grade 9. Students, how are you? I hope that you're doing well. Am I audible? Students who have joined us online, now. All right. Yes, students, सबको आवाज आ रही है? Okay, चलें जी start करते हैं our lecture number 3 of unit number 3, and today we have these two SLOs of reading comprehension, critical thinking. आज हम बात करेंगे plot development पे, and it is related to fiction. All right, so we are going to study this. Students, I need your attention. Raise your hand if you have a question, और अगर आपको चीज नहीं समझ आ रही, then you can just type in the chat box or unmute yourself and just straight away ask the question. So two SLOs we have today. All right. Okay, so number one is to critique the plot development with respect to different aspects of the story. Now, अगर हम स्टोरी की बात करें, there are different elements of a story that makes up a story. There are characters, there's setting, a theme, and what else? Yes, please. I hope that you are someone who really like reading stories. तो जो आपके एंटरटेनमेंट में जो आप फिल्म्स देखते हैं, जो आप स्टोरीज पढ़ते हैं, नॉवल है, they are fiction and they include a story. But the story even further has different elements जो सारे मिलके एक स्टोरी को बनाते हैं, और स्टोरी का एक स्ट्रक्चर है. अब वो स्ट्रक्चर उसको क्या कहते हैं हम? प्लॉट. और प्लॉट का एक सीक्वेंस होता है, हम उसको देखेंगे with respect to different aspects of the story. And next one is that you examine or evaluate stages of plot development in a fictional text. It means we are talking about fiction where everything is made up, it's imaginary, not related to this real world. And now these are the stages: exposition, setting, climax, character development, resolution. Okay, so let's begin our lesson about plot development. There are different stages in a plot, and we will see that क्या difference है story में और plot में. सबसे पहले let's do this quick brainstorming session. I just want your attention. Think about story you know very well. It could be from a book, a movie, or a TV show. Now, or all those different stories that you have been reading for a very long time from your textbook, from different storybooks, usme se just keep a story in your mind. It could be The Lion King. It could be The Hare and the Tortoise, very basic children's story, into the key stages of plot development. जब आप स्टोरी नरेट करते हैं किसी को, तो कुछ चीजों का ख्याल रखते हैं, एंडिंग पहले नहीं बता देते, स्पॉइल नहीं करते. यू टेक वन स्टेप एट अ टाइम, राइट? दिस इज व्हाट यू डू. ओके, तो थिंक अबाउट अ स्टोरी एंड जस्ट अब हम देखेंगे कि हाउ द स्टोरी स्ट्रक्चर्ड, हाउ द प्लॉट इज मेड. अब उसमें डिफरेंट स्टेजेस हैं स्टूडेंट्स. पहले स्टोरी की डेफिनेशन देखते हैं, स्टोरी को डिफाइन करते हैं. व्हाट इज अ स्टोरी? ओके, नाउ इट्स अ नैरेटिव. नैरेटिव मीन्स आप नरेट करते हैं, बोल आप बताते हैं कि पहले ये हुआ. यू नरेट द होल थिंग, द इवेंट, द इंसिडेंट, द अकाउंट्स ऑफ समबडी. कोई ऐसा वाक्या सुनाते हुए भी आप नरेट करते हैं ना. इट्स ऑल्सो अ स्टोरी बट इट्स बेस्ड ऑन रियल लाइफ. बट fictional stories are also called narratives. Okay, they can be true or fictitious. It could be from non-fiction or fiction. Fictitious means बनाया हुआ, गढ़ा हुआ, imaginary. True means related to real life in prose or verse. Okay. Story prose में भी है यानी नसर में भी है जो आप पढ़ते हैं with paragraphs, different paragraphs, but it can also be told in a poetic way. Poetry के अंदाज में verses में भी story को बता सकते हैं. All right. So two forms. It could be a prose, it could be a verse designed to interest, amuse or instruct the hearer or reader. Now, why do we tell stories or why do we read stories? Why do we read novellas, short novels or proper novels of different kinds? कोई action novel है, कोई funny है और किसी में कोई historical novel, historical event का एक novel है. So all these are having purposes to interest you, to amuse you by telling a funny story, an inspirational story, or to give you instructions or tell you life and moral lessons from the real life. How do you lead your life with good moral and ethical values and understanding the society as well. So this is why we tell stories. And now story includes a plot. Story is a broader term, students. All right. So keep this in mind. Story is just we tell everything that happened, but plot is how we tell it. We tell it in an organized structure. Okay. A plot is the sequence of events. स्टोरी में क्या होता है? इवेंट्स होते हैं. एक वाकया हुआ, फिर दूसरा, फिर तीसरा. अब उनको ऑर्गेनाइज करना है हमने. We have to organize these events within a story. We tell the description कि क्या हुआ, what happens, क्या है स्टोरी में, क्या हो रहा है, and why it happens, why it's happening, किस चीज से क्या चीज हुई, cause and effect, relationship. स्टूडेंट्स तो सबको क्लियर है? जी बोलें. फातिमा, सादिया, मोहम्मद बिन नदीम, अनीक, आसिफ. Pay attention, अपने feedback दें, and if you have any kind of confusion, just straight away unmute yourself and then ask your question. All right. So this was plot, and now let's see what's the difference between a story and a plot. A story is a comprehensive narrative. एक जामे एक पूरा पैकेज होता है एक स्टोरी. बट उस स्टोरी के अंदर प्लॉट है. प्लॉट इज पार्ट ऑफ द स्टोरी, बट अ स्टोरी ऑल्सो इंक्लूड्स. स्टोरी में क्या है? सेटिंग है. सेटिंग टेल्स यू कि स्टोरी कहां पर है, व्हाट्स द लोकेशन, टाइम क्या है, कौन सा जमाना है, किस तरह की इंवायरमेंट है, एंड ऑल दैट. सो दिस इज व्हाट? सेटिंग. कैरेक्टर्स, different characters, good characters, protagonist जिसे हम कहते हैं. The main character is called the protagonist, and there are also other supporting good characters who are supporting the right cause and they are not doing any harm. And then there are bad characters. They are bad characters, and the lead bad character is called antagonist. Okay, so protagonist, antagonist, side characters. Some funny characters are there in a story just to make jokes or make you feel, make you laugh, make you amuse. Okay, then we have themes. A story can be on different themes. Theme of poverty, theme of freedom, or theme of courage, bravery. इस पे story हो सकती है. And other factors that influence how the events or plot are told. So how the story is told, what happens, why it happens, its plot in a very good sequence of events happening, and we structure them accordingly, and this is what we call a plot. And story is the comprehension, the comprehensive, the package, what happens. So this is the basic difference. Okay, so students, are we clear about story and plot? जी जी बोलें, रिस्पॉन्ड करें. ओके. So after understanding these terms, you know fiction is made up, imaginary, non-fiction is based on real life events. And when we are reading a story, it could be in the prose form, it could be in the poetic form, in poetry, in forms of a poem. And story can be based on real life. You know what happened yesterday with me? I'll tell you the story. This happened. This is real. But when I'm telling you the story of the Lion King, of Simba or Scar and all that story, this is fictional. This is made up. Clear? Okay. Now we have the stages of plot development. It looks like this. First, you have the beginning of the story, the start, where everything is introduced to you. हर चीज introduce कराई जाती है. The setting, theme develop हो जाती है और characters को introduce करवाया जाता है. Story मतलब कहां से चली, क्या होने लगा है. You know, this is the exposition. Why is called exposition? The story is starting to expose upon you as a reader. You are being exposed to the story. First, number one is the beginning. Then you have the rising action. Then the middle, which is also called climax. Climax is always in the middle. You have to follow the right order of the plot development stages. Then you start having the falling action. Ab story ne khatam bhi hona hai. On a good note, resolution, all the problems will be addressed. It will come to resolution. Resolution means solution. हल क्या है? स्टोरी तब तक नहीं बनेगी जब तक कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगा. कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होता है ना. गुड प्रोटैगनिस्ट वर्सेस एंटागनिस्ट, गुड फोर्स वर्सेस बैड फोर्स. And now at the end, the whole problems, the solution, you know, it resolves by the end. So this is like a mountain. You can call it a mountain of a story. The story mountain goes from here then all the way up there. Okay. So in every story, whether it's in a film, it's in a TV series, whether it's a short story or it's a full-fledged long novel or any big narrative, follows this stages of plot. Okay, number one. Now, it's the beginning of the story where the author introduces the setting, characters, and other important information the readers need to know. कि आप स्टोरी के अंदर इन हो जाते हैं. Now you are interested about the characters, about the theme, the whole setting, and your attention is in the story. Next, we have the rising action. Now, something is going to happen, some action. This will create a problem in the story, and you have to solve it. A series of events that builds from the beginning of the story. Rising action is where the author builds interest and tension in the story. Tension आएगी, कुछ हो गया, something bad happened to the protagonist or to the some group of people. Now, how will it resolve? Or अब क्या होगा? How will they get out of the problem? This is the rising action. The action is about to rise. Something is going to happen. Okay, then we have on number 3, climax. Where does it come? Comes in the middle, right? Comes in the middle. It can also be called the turning point. The turning point where the story takes a sharp turn. Now it gets really interesting. You don't want to leave the story. You have to read it till the end and you have to finish watching it because it is getting so much interesting. This is the highest point of the tension or action in the story. The tension starts building up. What will happen? We are curious, right? We are inquisitive. We are curious. We are totally involved now. The climax often leads the reader. What will happen now? How is everything going to work or change? The climax is an important turning point for the characters or the story. You have to keep this in mind and you have to think of a story and remember the story. और जाके आप स्टोरी पढ़ें और उसमें से तलाश करें stages. Next one is the falling action. पहले क्या था हमारे पास? Rising action. Now something is going, the problem, the conflict is going to resolve. There will have some falling action. Why is it called falling action? किसकी तरफ fall कर रहा है ये? Solution की तरफ, resolution की तरफ. जी students, okay? So, all right. The events of the story after the climax or the turning point, the events are leading to the end of the story. अब यहां पे जो events होंगे आपको पता चल जाएगा story is about to just end. अब story का end आपको पसंद है नहीं पसंद, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए था, that is up to you, but your friend will say no, this is the right ending of the story, I like it. So this is subjective. Okay. Now, the last part. How many stages are there? Actually, there are 5 stages. All right. The resolution, it is also called denouncement. Why? Going to, you know, at the start हमने कुछ announce किया था. Now we are denouncing it. Something is going to happen. कोई resolution, कोई result निकलेगा यहाँ से. This is the final outcome or the untangling of the events of the story. Untangle, चीजें clear हो जाएंगी. उसने ऐसा क्यों किया था या इस कैरेक्टर ने ऐसा क्यों किया, स्टोरी में किस तरह एड अप हो रही हैं ये सारी चीजें, सारे जो सीक्रेट्स हैं, everything, every confusion, problem, everything will be clear to you. So it is the resolution of the story. Now all these 5 things make up a plot. Plot develops according to these stages. So again, just click this in your mind, take a picture or a screenshot. This is how it looks. Okay. So in the book we have the story The Yearling. Very interesting story. आप उस story को पढ़ेंगे या you can take any story from the internet or from your storybook, from your previous grade. You just read it, but keep in mind that I am going to find the stages, the beginning, the middle, the rising action, middle, falling action, and resolution. So why are we learning these stages of plot development? So that we can analyze, evaluate, and examine any story, whether it is good or not. If a story is not following this development, then it will have a good plot or a bad plot? A very bad plot. It will have a very bad plot. So stories with bad plots are not interested. They are not interesting. They are not appealing to the readers and they will not get popularized. Okay, here is an exemplary story. Since we are short of time, let me just give you a very quick overview. Now this is a story by Guy de Maupassant, a French writer. The story is called The Necklace. It's a short story that you can read in like 15 or 20 minutes, just in one sitting. You're going to finish it. Now this story, what happens in the exposition at the start? What happens is the story introduces the character, Madame Loisel, a woman who is unhappy with her life because she feels she deserves a more luxurious life. She needs a very good, luxurious life. She's unhappy. So what happened? Beginning में हमें स्टोरी स्टार्ट होते ही हमें क्या पता चला? कैरेक्टर के बारे में पता चला. Okay, she is married to a simple clerk, lives in a modest home. Now, what is modest home? The setting. बड़ा पसमानदा सा घर है, सादा सा घर है, ठीक है, simple, maybe one room, one kitchen, bathroom, etc. Setting का भी आपको पता चल गया. Now, all these introductory things in the exposition, then the rising action happens. You know, the husband got an invitation to a very famous big party, but the wife had nothing to wear. She wants a very good necklace. This is a problem, right? Problem है ना, उसने जाना है लेकिन उसके पास there is nothing expensive. So ये है हमारा rising action. Then the climax. क्या है climax? हार वो बोरो करती है किसी से, किसी बड़ी अमीर खातून से, हार गुम जाता. Yes. They are very not very rich. वो गरीब से होते हैं, हार गुम जाता है. प्रॉब्लम है. This is a problem. Now this story gets interesting now. अब कि क्या होगा, हार मिलेगा या नहीं मिलेगा? Climax है. Okay. Then the following action happens. To replace the lost necklace, her husband and she borrow a huge sum of money and buy a new necklace. Okay? Following action. कि अब नेकलेस वापस करना है. They collect the money and फिर क्या होता है? Let's see. अब क्या वो कर पाएंगे या नहीं? Will they able to join that money and return the necklace? Let's see. Resolution. तो जिससे इसने ये बोरो किया होता है नेकलेस, उसको 10 साल बाद उसी तरह का नेकलेस अपनी जमा पूंजी से लेके देती है, लेकिन बाद में ये पता चलता है कि वो नेकलेस जो पहला गुमा था वो तो था ही नकली. इट वॉज फेक. इट वॉज नॉट दैट मच एक्सपेंसिव जितने उसने खुद पैसे इकट्ठे कर लिए उसको रिटर्न करने के लिए. तो ये उसका रेजोल्यूशन हो गया. एंड नाउ शी वॉज टॉट अ लेसन. ये जो आपके पास है उसी में आप खुश रहें. बी वेरी मॉडेस्ट, बी हम्बल एंड हैव सम ह्यूमिलिटी. तो हमने देखा कि the story is told in a very following the different stages of plot. Now you have all these resources, and now if we have time like a minute, we can see the question bank, a very quick overview. Students, आप लोगों को समझ आ गया है सब? You understand about the SLO and how it works? जी. All right. G students, if you have any kind of question regarding the plot development, different stages, then you can raise your hand right now. Okay, on the screen you can see this question bank. ये आपके knowledge को test करेगा जो आज का lesson है. जैसे कि in the story, the hare and the tortoise, or the tortoise and the hare, सबने पढ़ी हुई है. Very simple, very easy. When the hare stops to take a nap, जब वो सो जाता है खरगोश, because he believes कि वो तो बहुत दूर है अभी, turtle या tortoise. तो ये which stage of plot development? Exposition, rising action, climax या resolution? It's a rising action. Good. In the ugly duckling story, when the ugly duckling turns into a beautiful swan and is finally accepted by the other swans, which stage of plot development is this? It's a resolution. Very good. So you can solve all the rest of these question banks. Since we are short of time, your physics lecture is about to start. So thank you for listening. I hope कि SLO बहुत clear है. The worksheet, the question bank, everything is attached for your understanding. You have to solve them by the next lecture and submit it. Thank you so much for listening. Take care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz.